good, man. Um, I just wanted to put a little intellectual thought out there, right? Basically, I'm just gonna like try to break down the Constitution of the United States of America. You understand? I'm gonna time myself. I'm gonna do it like in 5 minutes. Just a brief summary of what we're going through right now as far as politics and all this other bullshit, right? So let me first start by saying there's really two constitutions, and this is the birth of the Republican and Democratic Party. This is where these two parties stem from. The first constitution was started in 1776 after the American Revolution, quote unquote. Right? And that constitution had the articles, which was the first seven articles, and then eventually, a couple years later, they introduced the 10 Amendments, which is then called the Bill of Rights. And then they added five more articles. So altogether, it's 12 articles and the 10 Amendments, which is the Bill of Rights. Now, there's a book that I have called Colonel Tingham, The Memoirs of Colonel Tingham. Now, Colonel Tingham, which is Tilgham, he's the dude. He was a colonel in the American Union Army or American Revolution Army, and he was right hand and like the right hand man to George Washington at the time. Now George Washington picked him. This is his own words in his own diary slash memoirs. That he was chosen to go to the five nations, the Iroquois nations, and the Algonquin nations, which are indigenous Indians. And he was chosen to speak to the chiefs to create and to get permission to create the Constitution, which was actually modeled off the indigenous American Constitution. Because, yes, the indigenous Americans did have constitutions, several constitutions, as a matter of fact. Right? So he got permission. They said, yeah, you could set up a government. Now, the whole reason for the Constitution is all the 13 colonies can fall under one umbrella. So when the 13 colonies has to deal with Indian affairs or interact with the Indians, they could all the delegates can just form under one president, and the president would deal with the grievances of the 13 states to the Indian population, and they could respond and interact. And that was the whole original meaning for the construction of the first Constitution, which started in 1776. Now, let's fast forward 100 years. 1776 turned to 1871. This was after the American Civil War, right? Now, after the American Civil War, the second Constitution was created. And this was a congressional creation, meaning the Congress, Senate, and House of Representatives created this statute called the Act of 1871. Now, the Act of 1871, you could Google it. This was the act that created the District of Columbia, 10 square miles land right outside of Virginia, that the 13 colonies used as the seat or the capital of their U.S. government, United States or 13 colony government. Now, we also know that the 13 colonies eventually became 45 states because the manifest destiny from when the Europeans wanted to take the 13 colonies and gain more land or take over the other indigenous lands and add on to the U.S. states. So 13 colonies became 20 colonies, 24 colonies, 35 colonies, eventually moved up to 50 colonies or states. All right? So now the 50 states, eventually, the seat of the 50 states under the Act of 1871, which established District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., which is outside of Virginia, which was originally part of Virginia, at first, became the seat of government for the United States. So, so what are the articles that was created under the second Constitution became the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the 15th, all the way up to the 26th Amendment. This is important. Why is this important for us to know? Well, that's where you get the birth of the Republican slash Democratic parties that represent so-called the people or the population or the citizens of the United States, right? So the first Constitution from 1776 was called the Republican Constitution. The second Constitution from the 12th Amendment from the 13th Amendment all the way up to 25th Amendment, it was called the Democratic Constitution. That's why they call Republicans conservatives, because they believe in the old original Republic Constitution, which free speech, right to bear arms, right to defend yourself, right to make pursuit of liberty and happiness. All those are from the Republican Constitution. The Democratic Constitution now falls under what they call UCC laws, Universal Code, Commercial Codes from the Democratic government. So it's no longer a Republican government when the Act of 1871 got produced. It became a Democratic government. Now the word federal, I'm gonna interject and plug this in. The word federal, the etymology of the word federal means covenant with God. Covenant with God. That's what the word federal is. So that the Republican form of government was truly a federal government, because you even have a party that the first original party before the Republican Party was called the Federalist Party. And those were the people that protected the unalienable rights that was given by the divine power or God to the people. So the Constitution enforces and protects those rights. The Constitution don't give you rights. It only protects them and proclaims them and let people know that this is what it is and this is what you got to stand on. You understand? So now, once the Democratic Party got introduced into the United States political arena, now we have a division, Republicans and Democrats. We also know that majority of black people back in those days, 1700s, 1800s, early 1900s, were voting for Republican before they vote Democrat. It's only in the later times they switched parties to Democrats, the Democratic Party. You understand? So now that's why you had Trump was voted in now, and he was Republican, and he stand on conservative values, conservative old Republican values he tried to introduce. And now you have Joe Biden, the president of the United States, now under the Democratic Party, because he stands for democratic values. One more last thing. Article 4, Section 4 of the original Constitution, the 1776 Constitution, states that the U.S. federal government should respect a Republican form of government, no matter how many types of government come after, because all treaties, contracts that was made before the U.S. government was formed is still valid. It's still valid. Whatever treaties the United States made with any other countries, foreign countries, or even domestic parties is still valid to this day. You understand? So the right to bear arms, right of free speech is still stands and still valid to this day. So when people talk about Constitution don't protect you, it's not for black people, that's a fucking lie. That's a fucking false. The only reason why people go to jail for possessing a gun, because remember, definition of the word crime means damage to property and persons. When you physically hurt somebody or physically damage property, that is considered a crime. Possession, which is 9/10 of the law, can never equal to a crime. Possessing something doesn't mean you actually committed a crime of whatever you possessed at the time. So possession doesn't equal crime. Just because you have something or possess something on you doesn't that mean that you did anything or committed a crime with whatever you possess. See, people have to know the law, and the law is the first thing every man, woman, and child should know. But that's why that when they break you into the 13th Amendment, when you commit a so-called crime, now you become a slave, and your rights have been unalienable rights have been taken from you. I'm not saying people don't deserve to go to jail, but you have to know the definition of a crime and what a crime actually is defined under law. And that is when you know where to go after that and defend your own rights. So that's why I wanted to break down the initial differences between the two. And I hope you like, you know what I'm saying, pay attention to that and see what's going on with that. And then build on your own thing. Once you find that out, you start researching, you start building your own cases and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? The same lawyer that you're paying this $50,000 and shit, remember they got law libraries in jail. The same books that's in the law libraries, the same books them lawyers is reading that you're paying $50,000. And these saying your defense lawyers having dinner with the prosecutor. Your defense lawyers fucking playing golf with the judges. Learn what's going on. Don't play the game if you don't know the rules. Don't jump into the streets and you don't know what the fuck consequences come with it and how to deal with it. You can't play a game not knowing the rules. It don't make sense. You're gonna lose every time. So that's all I wanted to interject and see what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And just trying to instill some positivity and education onto this fucking Facebook and social media. Fuck all the other bullshit. Don't mean shit. Because knowledge is worth more than silver and gold. And if you realize that, then a lot of people do better. Peace.